This week, it's time for security money. SailPoint's IPO saves the index. Again? In the leadership and communication segment, the CISO transformation, a path to business leadership. The CISO's dilemma of protecting the enterprise while driving innovation. When hiring, emphasize skills over degrees, and more. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly.
The threat landscape is constantly evolving, making it nearly impossible for security teams to keep up. That's why so many top companies turn to Tines, a security orchestration and automation platform built by security practitioners for security practitioners. Tines empowers analysts and engineers to automate their most repetitive, time-consuming tasks. No coding expertise required, just the flexibility to tailor workflows to your team's exact needs. Ready to break free from the limitations of traditional tools? Learn more at securityweekly.com/Tines. Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 385, recorded March 3rd, 2025. I am your host, Matt Alderman. Joining me today for this Security Money segment is my co-host, Mr. Jason Albuquerque.
Hey, Matt, how you doing? Hey, did you catch any of the combine?
I saw a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My son and I, in between, soccer games and kids' sports all weekend, we tried to catch as much of it as we possibly could. But it was pretty good. There are some incredible athletes out there, man.
There are. It's interesting to me that you get people that skip the combine or skip certain competitions in the combine, like the one, they were talking about Will Howard's performance, but then Cam Ward and Shadir Sanders didn't even do the passing competition, right? And the reason they and the reason they say they don't do it, by the way, is they're not used to the receivers, so they're not used to the timing, right? And so I thought it was interesting that, anyways, just stuff like that.
I know. It's just fun to watch the new up and coming guys, kind of put on a little bit of a show. So it was kind of
there. You go. Yep. All right, one quick announcement, then we'll get into the Security Money segment. Security Weekly listeners save $100 on their RSA Conference 2025 full conference pass. RSA Conference will take place April 28th to May 1st in San Francisco and on demand. To register using our discount code, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC25 and use the code 5U5SecWeekly. I'm registered. I'm there. Hope to see you there. All right, Security Money segment. So every quarter I go through this. Every quarter I have to decide whether the index is going to survive, Jason. Because inevitably somebody buys somebody that's public. This last quarter, Secureworks was acquired by Sophos. Yep. Secureworks has been in, not from the beginning, but pretty close to the beginning. And so I was instantly down to 24, and I'm like, uh-oh, now what? Then SailPoint goes IPO, and I'm like, yes.
Yep. I know. Save the index for us, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly right. So that was the big change. And so every time there's a change, I have to rebalance the index. So that's what takes me the longest. So I rebalanced the index and got everything set. So on the close on February 28th, which was Friday, the index is sitting at 2471.09, which is 147% increase. That's down though. And you'll see in the charts, I put the charts in, you can see it was climbing back towards the record. And then we've had this kind of precipitous drop over the past few weeks. And so we're a little lower than last quarter overall.
And that same position is trending into 25, isn't it? I mean, are we seeing a little bit of a correction happening? Maybe a little bit of shift in investor sentiment into 2025? Yeah,
the unknown right now is tariffs and the impact on tariffs in pricing right now and kind of what it's going to do to the economy. It's interesting, though, because I see you can look at this from two different perspectives, but I've seen some really interesting investment announcements with the tariff stuff, right? So a Taiwanese company today, I think, is putting something like $100 billion investment into
Yeah,
building chip plants here in the U.S. So although tariffs create some uncertainty, we could also see some improved investments in the U.S., which could also help the economy. So I'm not quite sure which way we're going to trend.
I was actually going to ask you that, Matt, because, in many instances, disruption creates an environment for hypergrowth, right? And I mean, this could be an opportunity for some hypergrowth here domestically within the U.S. So,
correct.
Yeah, yet to be determined, but I don't know. I'm not scared of the outlook right now, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's still to me, it's still too early. I still see the same pressures in 25 that we had in 24 and partially in 23. Budgets are tighter. Inflation's still a little high, but even the Fed came out and said, look, January prices from an inflation perspective are right in line where we expect. So we haven't seen any uptick in inflation. We're kind of steady state, and we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, right. And you see the same thing happening in the NASDAQ, right? The NASDAQ closed at 18,847.28, increase of 184%, down also from last quarter. So the index and the NASDAQ kind of moved together. And kind of rule of thumb that I see from my charts from doing this for over 6 years is when the market's going up, the index tends to outperform the NASDAQ. When it's going the other direction, it underperforms the NASDAQ. It just,
right.
Yeah. The NASDAQ's more broad than my index, and so the swings are a little more wild.
Now, what are your thoughts around? I mean, I noticed like decreased profit, right? I mean, we're in a place where profits are diminishing, they're slimming out.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around that? Because is that a sign of rising operational costs for businesses? Is the reduction, hopefully the reduction in inflation, going to help with that into 2025? Because I look at, there are some positive signs in what we're seeing, but then I see the profit margins kind of slimming out. So that's a concern.
Yeah, they have been. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. So revenues typically beat. Revenue beats were up a little bit this last quarter, but the profit beat is down. So, I mean, at one point, this was like 40% on average profit beats. Now we're down to 12.6%, Jason, right?
Yeah.
So we're tighter. So here's and it's probably a couple factors, right? In order to get the additional revenue, does that mean I need more head count, therefore more operational costs to go get that additional revenue? And that means I have lower profits because I have a higher cost structure. We've seen layoffs in the industry. We've seen some right sizing from a profitability perspective, but not everybody's done it yet. And so when you look at the group of 25, I just see that trending down, which means it's more expensive to get to the revenue beat that everybody's been driving towards.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And those show up. Some interesting best performing, worst performing this last quarter. So NetScout was the best performing. Rubrik, they went from worst to best in one quarter. So they were on the worst performing list last quarter. Came in kind of like second place. Verint also was on the best performing list this time. But then the worst performing, the opposite. Fastly went from best to worst. OneSpan went from best to worst. And then SentinelOne was in that worst performing structure this time. So yeah, it was weird. They like flipped each other.
Yeah, totally. It is a strange little flip, but we'll see if it's something that's a little bit more systemic. If the next time we do this, they're still in the worst performing.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Average analyst ratings went up. It's a solid buy. The market's a solid buy. So although we're seeing profit beats coming down, we're seeing some of the just the adjustments. The analysts are still pretty bullish on this sector because our analyst ratings they're going up, which is a good sign, I think, for the broader market. So that's definitely a good sign. Yeah. Best rated CyberArk and Rubrik, both again. SentinelOne's rated well, probably because they just missed. So there's higher expectations for them to perform well. Worst rated is Fastly. Again, they were on the list last time. F5 and NetScout were the other ones. And it was weird to me. The one source I used, Okta didn't have any analyst coverage, which I thought was really, really strange.
Really?
Because
That is strange.
that was so
It's
weird.
very strange.
Yeah,
Flying
that was
under
the only.
radar, I guess, this quarter?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just an anomaly that I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I had analyst ratings for every company except for Okta.
Very
Okta
odd.
this quarter, yeah. Let's see, IPO, SailPoint.
Yep.
Opened at 23, closed at 22. They're sitting at 23 and change this morning. I looked on the index this morning. So they are up. They raised, what was something like 1.3 billion in cash.
Yeah.
In
Well, I
the
mean,
market.
that should be a little tell for investor confidence then. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good investment right there.
It is. And they got their market cap. I'm going to look it up again because that puts them at a market cap. Their current market cap is just under 13 billion overall. So that's it's a decent market cap for them, right? Because when you look at some of the other traditional players in the space, right? So I look at the vuln vendors, right? I mean, Tenable's at 4.5 billion.
Yep.
Okay, SailPoint kind of comes back into the market at 13 billion. That's a really good capitalization for that IPO.
Right.
Right? Just because I mean it's really, really interesting, right? And just to see how it compares, because when we get to the private side, we're going to talk about Wiz, right? And some of the acquisitions they did, and there's discussions about Wiz getting ready to go public with some of their hires with a CFO and some changes there.
Right.
But remember, they had a $23 billion opportunity to get bought by Google, turned it down.
I know.
Right? So
Exactly.
the last IPO we see in the space is 12 to 13 billion. How do you get a higher value? Anyways, like I said, that's a really big bar to get over.
Extremely.
Yeah. Let's see. Secureworks was acquired by Sophos, $8.50 a share. Valuation of $859 million. Doesn't surprise me. They've been struggling for a while to. They were $1 billion valuation. They had been dropping. I think it was probably a pretty good exit for the shareholders at that price point. They're going to get pulled in. Sophos is going to start, I think, offering managed services now. I guess that's why they bought them.
I'm sure that's their next step in, turning it into Sophos MSSP services at the end of the day.
Yeah, right.
But it just keeps showing the consolidation that's just apparent everywhere. It just keeps happening and happening and happening.
Yeah, and you're going to see that when we get into the privates, right? There's still a lot of acquisition activity going on. Consolidations by both public and private companies buying stuff. I rarely see these kind of acquisitions. I mean, we've seen some, but Sophos is a publicly traded company, I believe, too, or was. I can't remember. They might have gone back private because they were in the index at one point. I think they went back private. Yeah. A couple layoffs. F5, 2% of their workforce, about 100 employees. Akamai, 2.5% of their workforce, about 250 employees. So we're still seeing these layoffs.
Yeah. It's I sit back and I say to myself, when does that pendulum swing stop and kind of start evening out again? But it's still happening. It's still a trend. They're still, still leaning out workforce. I mean, I've seen some other, just technology companies doing the same. They're in, word on the street is there's some out there ready to do some major rifts too. So, in the technology and cybersecurity industry, it's still happening.
Yeah, and the market's still tight. I have friends looking, and I'm just telling you, it's a very tight job market right now.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Couple other key highlights. We covered this one partially before. I mean, Amit Yaron's passing, the chairman and CEO of Tenable, was a huge shock to the industry.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was just very, very shocking. That's the second public CEO to have passed away. Philippe Courteau, the other one from Qualys, a couple years ago was another one. Those are just devastating events in the industry. So, I
mean, what do you think? How do you think that's going to affect Tenable in the future? Do you think it's going to have a I mean, obviously it's going to have a major impact, right? But just from the direction and strategy and just pure leadership
Right.
on the side of the aisle. But do you think it's going to have an adverse effect future state?
It depends on who becomes the new CEO. Right now, Mark Thurman and Vince, the CFO, are kind of co-CEOs. They were announced as co-CEOs when Amit decided to step back and focus on treatment before his passing. Obviously, the board will go find a new CEO, and a lot of it will depend on the type of CEO they bring in. So I have a lot of history here because I helped recruit Amit at Tenable, and Amit's impact was not as harsh as this next one could be. And what do I mean by that? Ron Gula, the previous CEO, was a very technology-focused, engineering-focused CEO. So was Amit. Amit, very technical, very focused on engineering, and you see that with the acquisitions and the things they've done over the years, right? If they bring in another technology-focused CEO like Ron and Amit, then nothing really changes. But if they go a different direction, right? Maybe they bring in, maybe they promote Thurman, right? I mean, Mark's got a ton of experience. I've worked with him at RSA. He's very well respected. But he's more on the sales and operational side, right? Does that change strategy for Tenable? Maybe. I don't know. And if they brought in a more sales-focused CEO, what does that do to the organization? Does that change things? Yet to be determined, Jason.
Yep.
But the roots of Ron and Amit as CEOs were more on the technical side,
on the engineering first side.
Yeah, really.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
but it's actually it's amazing how much a shift like that in culture can disrupt a business, right? Going from an engineering-led organization to a sales-led organization, that potentially could be a big disruption.
Yeah, it could be. That's why I said we got to wait to see who replaces Amit in that seat, and we'll figure it out from there, right? The only other news, SailPoint's public again. That's 2 IPOs for SailPoint. They were in my index. This is the second time in the index for me, so that's really interesting. And look, we knew this was eventually going to happen. We knew that Thoma Bravo was buying these companies, kind of redoing them. I think they merged in. One of the other acquisitions was SailPoint. Bring it back out public. There's a lot of other Thoma Bravo portfolios sitting private right now that could come out in the near future. So Thoma Bravo, please, whenever somebody gets acquired out of my index, can you schedule another IPO so I keep the 25?
Exactly. Be strategic with us.
Right, exactly. Like, just release one a quarter. Like, bring them back into the public market. Then I have plenty to choose from.
I love it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the private side for a minute and talk through a couple big rounds. So Sierra, $300 million, now valued at $3 billion. We had Lamont Orange, their CISO on a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's a great raise there, and all on the data security front. Like, kudos to them, but a nice valuation. So we're still seeing investment here.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I like to see investment in the IoT OT space too, because that's so often neglected. So getting a little investment there always makes me smile.
Yeah. Well, you got the Armis, Armis, $200 million.
Exactly.
They're now valued at $4.3 billion.
Amazing. Yeah.
They got to go public soon. I think they're getting pretty close. Where I think you're definitely going to see some moves towards IPO. And if you look at the SailPoint side, they priced on the high side. They got the price. They got the cash. They're above where they were. It's a pretty good indication of the IPO market right now.
Yeah.
Do we see an Armis, a Wiz, some of these guys coming into the market sooner than later?
And what I liked in the list too was just the diversity of all the different stances within the list, right? So you have everything from, the bug bounty platforms like, BugCrowd and, the AI powered security. And it's just, you're kind of seeing that diversity in the product lines now. It's really cool just to see that mix.
Yeah.
Where the investments are happening. It's good.
Yeah. And again, I'm only covering investments that are 20 million or more now. And there's a bunch of new seed and lower A rounds coming into the market, a lot around AI. There's a lot around AI. You got Resolve AI and Reliance AI, both taking 30 plus million in rounds this last quarter. I think you're going to continue to see some uptick. The other one that I flagged in the funding round was the Insight Partners acquiring the majority stake in Detectify. Again, little experience here because Insight Partners came into Tenable to take majority stake prior to its IPO. I know Ricard Carlson, the CEO. I've talked to him multiple times. When I was at Tenable, we actually tried to acquire Detectify to be our DAST. And typically what happens, though, when a transaction like this happens, Insight's MO is typically to go find a new CEO. Because what they want is they want to take the company on to the next stage. And that usually means a CEO change. So it'll be interesting to track Detectify and the team and see what happens. But Insight typically wants to go find a CEO that can take them to the next level when they do these kind of deals. So we'll see. All right. Acquisitions. Some interesting ones here. Prevalent by Miratech. Now that one kind of shocks me a little bit in that Prevalent kind of being a third-party vendor risk management platform, going to Miratech, which is more of a kind of a consulting services organ. Like, I'm curious the play there, or was it a fire sale? I didn't see any values around this acquisition. That one just kind of seemed a little odd to me. Yeah, it is. I mean, one of the ones I liked strategically in the list was the Dragos, where they acquired Network Perception. That was a great move on their part. On all honesty, they have their own. Obviously, they're niche and high players in the operational technology world, right? I mean, they're the bomb when it comes to that. And bringing in that whole visualization side of the aisle, I think is a great move on their part, just to bolster their product and their platform. So that was an awesome move. Yeah, and Dragos keeps growing. Rob Lee and the team, they keep doing a great job over there. Yeah, absolutely agreed. Thoma Bravo was active again. They team up with HIG Capital and they buy CompTIA, which is the certification body. When I saw that, I said, wow, what the hell is happening there? And prior to this, CompTIA was going out there and buying up all these additional certifications. Like they bought a public sector certification that's industry. Like when you're in government, when you're in the government side, in technology, they have a whole public technology institute. I noticed that acquisition probably about a year and a half ago, and CompTIA started growing their portfolio of certifications, and now probably to set themselves up to be acquired, right? I mean, that's ultimately they're trying to expand and diversify their portfolio. So yeah, that was, I mean, hindsight 2020, not a surprise seeing what I saw happening. I was very impressed with them kind of growing their portfolio, and now I can see why. Yeah. So now the question is, what does Thoma Bravo have planned for CompTIA? I know. That's what I couldn't figure out. What's the strategy for that? Right. It's not evident to me yet. It might become evident looking at whatever they do, but I was trying to think through all the portfolios they've acquired and like where would CompTIA snap in. I couldn't come to one off the top of my head. And so obviously they have a strategic plan here to do something with it, but it was just interesting because it's a very niche. It's a certification body basically, right? And so where does it fit in the broader strategy? Anyways, that was interesting. Let's see, normalized by Proofpoint, adding data security in. That's a little interesting move to me too. These data security providers, we're seeing some interesting moves in some of these. DAS acquired by Wiz, $450 million. That's a really good exit for DAS. It was funny. I've been working with the Wiz team on their Wiz integration program for one of our integrations, and the person on the team, the partnership team, came from the DAS acquisition. So I was like, look, I'm going to cover you guys on Monday. It was pretty interesting. But $450 million exit for them I think that was a good exit.
Yeah. Now Daz was application security posture management, right? That's their play. Got it.
Yeah. So what you're going to start seeing again, Wiz getting ready to go IPO, folks. Yep. I'm pretty sure they're getting ready, right? So where's the additional, when you go, what's your strategy to grow? And if you think about what Wiz has done really, really good on the cloud security posture management in the cloud side, tapping into the applications that are running in the cloud infrastructure is a logical place to be. You could see them pulling in some other SaaS, DaaS, SC types of capabilities over time, because that'll create a pretty strong set of capabilities.
Yeah.
In this space, and it aligns to my app user data strategy, right? Is
100%. 100%.
The more I can handle on the app side, better off I am. And so they've been growing a lot. This last one is really interesting to me.
I know it is.
BlackBerry is selling off Cylance. Arctic Wolf is looking to pick up the Cylance component from BlackBerry.
Yeah.
$160 million acquisition is way under what BlackBerry paid. Way under what BlackBerry paid for Cylance.
Arctic Wolf got a deal on that one. I mean, it just shows what Arctic Wolf is positioning for. They want soup to nuts coverage within their client base, right? So go grab the endpoint detection and response capabilities, and now they have it all the way down to the agent.
Yeah. Because that's how you're going to build out your XDR platform, right? You're going to have that endpoint component. Yep. The only other one to acquire is you got SentinelOne that's public that you could still pick up, but not for 160 million. There's no way.
Absolutely
Carbon Black got spun back out again. This is probably a really, I think what Adrian said, this is about 90% off the valuation that BlackBerry paid for Cylance. Okay.
That's insanity.
So it's a really good pickup for them to embed endpoint detection response into their platform.
100%.
Yeah.
Good on you, Arctic Wolf. Good on you.
Right. Well, I mean, what else was BlackBerry going to do with it, right?
I know. It was dying on the vine there.
All right. I mean, BlackBerry's kind of dying on the vine as a whole, right? And so why not sell off a portion of it?
They're the same as the whole Broadcom player, right? That's where good companies go to die, is what they say, right?
Yeah. It didn't used to be that way, but then Apple completely blindsided BlackBerry, and the rest is history, folks.
Right.
Yeah. A couple other layoffs. Kaspersky closes their UK office 3 months after closing their US office, so they keep scaling back. This last piece on mergers, Trustwave and Cybereason merge. I have history with Trustwave. They bought my first startup.
Yeah.
They got acquired by Singtel. Singtel spins them off. They merge them in with Cybereason, which is also way down from its all-time high valuation. What happens here?
Yeah, I know.
Again, it's almost like the Arctic Wolf Cylance thing in some respects, right? Because Trustwave has some managed services, but primarily focus a lot on PCI and building out a whole like framework around PCI and services. Mm-hmm. So, Cybereason kind of fits the portfolio, but I don't know. I just don't see where the growth comes from for either one of these two.
I don't see the play. I don't know. Maybe it's a ditch effort to try to shake things up a little bit. I mean, I don't know about you, but the Kaspersky thing kind of made my gears spin a little bit. And it made me start wondering around, the whole geopolitical influence around the market.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
I
mean, things are heating up, man. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to the news, but look who was just in the UK a little while ago, right after he came here. So, I think some of that geopolitical influence is starting to put its pressure down.
Yeah, but I mean, Kaspersky's they've been losing market share for a while because of their connections back into Russia, right? So I think this has been happening for a while.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that any of the current news really was an influence here, but you can see just kind of people moving away from Kaspersky, which is then forcing them to continue to shrink and shut down offices.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at, office in UK is probably their major European hub.
Right.
Shutting that down is a major action. So
Yeah, it's major. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you're basically saying we're going to give up EMEA.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's all the news from security money this last quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an interesting run. I can't wait to see next quarter. I want to see how 2025 performs.
Yes. So do I. I want to see what those results start to look like.
I'm excited for 2025 because we all know what a mess 24 was.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're going to take a quick break and then cover the leadership and communications articles for this week.